I'm going to be honest and say I don't know whether there is research for guidelines. I would say that children in the process of separation, divorce, remarriage, blended families are sometimes thought of as an element that has to comply, as opposed to autonomous, creative beings of value. And going through a separation, divorce is horribly painful for everybody. So you need to walk that out with your child, and to some degree allow your child to determine where they want to be, and have open conversations with them. If they're resisting going to spend time for their visitation, try to figure out, have conversations with them why. Maybe there's a legitimate reason that requires a response. Maybe it's some kind of fear that they're letting you down if they go spend time with the other parent. Ideally, you want both parents involved in the child's life on a regular, consistent basis. That's hugely valuable for the child. But that's not something that you can force, whether it's, in the midst of, in this situation, a separation, divorce, or even in a blended family. You cannot force relationship. You can walk it through, but you need to have conversation with your child to figure out why. Why do you not want to go? How much time would you like to go? What things do you like doing when you're there? And then also have that conversation with your former partner. And those can be very, very hard. But as we talked about in our workshop, the number one predictor of success for children after a divorce is how well you're able to work that through with your former partner, whether or not you can have those open conversations.
Make a lot of sense there, Mike. I think it's a very difficult question because there's so many possibilities. And I agree with Mike, a big part is finding out what's happening with this child while he or she doesn't want to go. As far as rules and this kind of thing for visitation, in my experience, not a legal expert, but if it's not set legally, then it's set by agreement between the parents, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of set standards because the cases tend to be dealt with individually. The part of the child not wanting to go seems to be the standout, and part of that can be how each parent is reacting to the other. As you may know, are you critical of the other parent? I think everyone knows by now you want to try and not be critical of the parent your child is supposed to be going to see, or in trying to keep them out as much of your flack. But unfortunately, there's Mike mentioned being able to communicate with the spouse, and there's a term I use called family health. If you're divorced or separated going through that and you cannot talk directly with your partner, I've worked with many families in that situation, and that either can be workable or it just is a very terrible situation where that parent has talked to a third party and that party talks to the other parent. Things can get fragmented and go in different directions very, very quickly. So I think if you can't work it out yourselves, or if you have an informal therapist or a consultant in your group to try and find out more and work this out, then we do have services in the community that could be very helpful. As you get into the conflict, as whoever asked the question may well know, is maybe legally it says this child has to visit the parent, and I'm supposed to make sure they get there or they visit, but they don't want to go, so then you feel pressured. And you may want the child to have the contact, as Mike said. So it's a very complex question. I think it depends on the particulars of the people and family involved. And as I said, this term of family health is quite a variety that comes into play, I think, during divorce and separation process, which could be, fortunate or very unfortunate. So it's really the adult's responsibility to do for the child. We talked about love in our session, and love is putting that child first. That's not easy to do when your own life is falling apart. So or has. It's the best thing to do.
The only thing I would add is, out of love for your kids, find a neutral third party that will help you work through those issues, and do it out of love for your kids.
I guess in looking after yourselves in a situation like this, that this is a highly emotional time, and it's hard to make decisions from a place other than emotion when you're in that. There are resources. You mentioned a therapist or a counselor or someone that can help you with that, but there's also been some parenting things. I don't know if Connections is doing anything in this area, but there have been parenting groups that have been run for parents in separate groups and then kids in their own group, and there's been some really great stuff that happens there, because that's a safe place for kids to talk about things with other kids who are having that similar experience, and work some of those feelings out in a way that isn't caught between two parents and what their emotional needs are. So I guess just look after yourself when you're in that circumstance, make use of what resources you can, because it really will help. And maybe there's more rational. There's a lot of research on this that shows do's and don'ts around what's going to lead to good outcomes for your child in these circumstances. So get the help you need to deal with it, I guess.
One last little thing. I'm not a legal representative, but there are court orders that exist. And as much as you want to have communication with your kids, you also want to be very careful that you're not breaching court orders, because that can have damaging ramifications. So if that's the case, you might also want to be consulting with a lawyer around those technical pieces, as well as considering your emotional needs, their emotional needs, and engaging in conversations.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to put your hands together for our great speakers here. And Q&A, I really appreciate them coming out, taking the time out to come and speak with us all. Everybody's got some busy lives and that, so we really appreciate them coming out. But before we get to the door prizes, I want to thank a few people. I want to thank our major sponsors. Without them, you'd be out in the parking lot starving with no swag. So we'd like to thank the Windsor Essex Community Foundation, St. Clair College alumni, and Steve from Fantastic Fathers. So we appreciate those major sponsors. And this event couldn't happen without our volunteers. We had a lot of volunteers doing stuff. We had childcare. We had volunteers taking care of your children. So we really appreciate them doing that, coming and volunteering their time to do all that. And I know I mentioned this before, but the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board and Brennan High School allowed us to come here and use their facility today. And we really appreciate them opening it up and allowing us to do that. So we really appreciate them doing that. I'd also like to thank the members of the CDAC team that came here and helped out. Our next, we can put a small plug in for our thing. Our next event is May 6th, and it's called Sunday with Dad. And it's dads, granddads, significant males in your child's life, from children 0 to 6. You can join us for an afternoon at playtime down at the center. With instruction for both boy and girl for hairstyles and that. We've had it once before. It was all fun. So keep an eye out on connectwithus.ca, or if you see any of these in your packages, take a look at that and see what our exciting opportunities for dads are coming up.
And
some other exciting opportunities. Pardon?
That's just for dads?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that one's just for dads there. And then Fantastic Fathers has some amazing stuff coming on. So Steve, what do you got going on for Fantastic Fathers?
Okay, we have a couple things coming up as well. May 12th, the day before Mother's Day, we partnered up.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, sorry, no. Shy kid from Essex.
You're doing great, buddy.
The day before Mother's Day, May 12th, we have partnered with